How's it going, guys? Cody back again, dropping yet another video. Right, guys, yesterday news broke of a murder that took place on Sunday at one of 8 high security prisons in England called HMP Full Sutton. HMP Full Sutton is a category A prison or a maximum security prison in York, up in Yorkshire. And these two prisoners were on the protection wing because one of them is a fucking depraved rapist who wrote in a diary that he loved to rape women. He killed one of Britain's worst ever paedophiles, a notorious paedophile by the name of Richard Huckle, who travelled out throughout the Middle East pretending to be a photographer, a devout Christian, and an aid worker, and was travelling through impoverished countries in the Middle East to abuse children. He then moved to, I think he travelled to Australia, and it was flagged up there, and he faced 71 counts, and it repeats in the media that he was sentenced to 22 life terms in prison. I'm going to read the story. There's a link in the description below, like I always do. We're going to cover the story. I'm going to do my bit at the end. Let's get into it. Right, guys, prisoner suspected of killing evil paedophile Richard Huckle is also a sex offender. Paul Fitzgerald, the picture you can see at the start, 29, is reportedly the prime suspect in the murder of Huckle, who raped and abused 200 children at HMP Full Sutton. A prisoner suspected of killing one of Britain's most notorious paedophiles is himself a convicted sex offender, it is claimed. Richard Huckle, 33, was killed at HMP Full Sutton, East Yorkshire, where he is serving 22 life terms on Sunday. It is believed the homemade blade was used in the fatal attack. Now, The Sun reports that Paul Fitzgerald, 29, is the prime suspect. Fitzgerald, who is serving an indefinite jail sentence for a 2009 attack on a woman as she walked her dog, once reportedly boasted, "I love raping women." His trial at Leeds Crown Court heard the words were written in his diary. Fitzgerald from Northern Ireland was convicted of assault with intent to commit a sexual offence, possession of an offensive weapon, and breaching a sexual offences prevention order, or an SOPO. An insider told The Sun after the killing, there was blood everywhere. The air ambulance was called in, but it was too late. It was a target attack. There was no chance of saving him. Paedophile Huckle from Ashford in Kent was jailed for confessing to 71 charges of vile sexual abuse against children. Huckle's campaign of terror against children, some as young as 6 months old, lasted for 9 years. The former teacher targeted vulnerable and poverty-stricken children whilst working in Southeast Asia. He was ordered to spend at least 25 years behind bars. He was only 28 when he was locked up for his campaign of rape and was being held in a prison containing some of the country's most dangerous men. Huckle pleaded guilty to an unprecedented 71 charges, but police believe he may have been responsible for many more offences. He boasted about how easy it was to abuse children from impoverished backgrounds, and even created a truly evil manual for other paedophiles. The sick paedophile also created a ledger which contained horrific details of his abuse. Huckle scored the scale of abuse on each victim suffered, and from these sick notes, officers believe he could have targeted up to 200 young victims. Police investigating his death. A statement from Humberside Police said, "Humberside Police are working closely with the prison service to investigate the death of an inmate, and at this time we are treating the death as suspicious. The Ministry of Justice has declined to comment." No surprise there. Now, like I say, at the end of the day, guys, right, how it works, for those that are not up to date and up to knowledge with the prison system or the penal system here in England and Wales, Scotland's obviously separate, their justice has been devolved. Unfortunately, here in the UK, we have the protection wings, or the Rule 43s, the protections, the numbers, the nonce wings. Right? Now, contrary to popular belief, the protection wings don't just house paedophiles, rapists, and child murderers. You get gang members on there. You can get former police officers, former prison officers, debt heads, yeah, so on and so forth, right? Now, Full Sutton, I used to write to somebody, a serial killer, that I was actually housed on this wing previously. He's now died, a gay serial killer by the name of Dennis Nielsen. I used to correspond with Dennis. Always had an interest in serial killers and everything else, forensic psychology, if you will. So these people are segregated and they live in their own communities. I can't remember what wing it is in Full Sutton that houses the wrong-uns. They're known as bacons, wrong-uns. In Scotland, they're known as beasts. Now, strangely enough, right, how people might think, like, this obviously, Paul Fitzgerald, right, who's taking it amongst himself to kill this depraved paedophile. Now, how, in prison, as crazy as this sounds, a rapist will see himself as higher than a paedophile. Now, a rapist forces himself on somebody and has sex with them. Right, whether that be, like I say, whether that be, they're not, obviously you can rape people under the age of 16 because it's a statutory rape because they're obviously unable to give consent. But a rapist, Paul Fitzgerald, who's in prison, in 2009 attack on a dog walker, offensive weapon, and obviously tried to rape this woman and said he loves to rape women, sees himself higher than a paedophile who gets off on children. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? Just fathom that, though. A rapist looks down on a paedophile. In prison, certain offences, people, like, there's a hierarchy. It goes on that way. Obviously, Full Sutton Prison, it's a maximum security facility. It's over in York, in East Yorkshire. These people have obviously been housed on the protection wing, and then he's obviously taken exception to his offences, and he's thought, I'm going to put a stop to this. Now, like I say, the prison, on the back of the situation, obviously the prison would have been placed into a lockdown, into a freeze, especially that wing. Probably would have a controlled unlock for food and meds and stuff like that, because the prison and the wing especially, is obviously a crime scene in that instance, and it's a fast-moving investigation, and the major incident team from Yorkshire Police will obviously be dealing with this. Prisoners, there's a no grassing rule in prison like there is in the criminal fraternity, but obviously people will breach that. CCTV on the landings, which is obviously quite grainy and stuff like that. I believe that Paul Fitzgerald is currently being held in the segregation unit. Obviously, the prison would have been placed in a freeze. He would have been obviously placed down there. Obviously, police and everything would have obviously gone down, speaking to him, and everything else, because obviously it's a murder investigation. I've got to be careful what I say, guys, because obviously there's a criminal investigation ongoing. It's nothing uncommon for the Ministry of Justice not to comment at all. This is the second murder that we know so far of 2019. You had the one earlier this year, Stephen O'Donnell, God bless his soul, at Risley Prison, which is a Cat C prison in the northwest. He was stabbed to death, God bless his soul. And now you've had this incident. Now, it's a win-win, really, because you've got a paedophile that's been murdered, and you've got a sexual offender that's going to be lifed off now. Now, the fact is, people, please understand this, right? I stick up for prisoners, and I'm all for prisoners' rights, right? But as somebody that was abused, I will not defend, nor will I shed a tear for a sexual offender, whether that's a paedophile or whether that's a rapist. For me, a rapist might see himself higher than a paedophile. I see them both offences as just capital punishment should be the answer. I genuinely do believe that. I do need to say, though, I do need to make this clear. My heart and my thoughts and my prayers go out to Richard Huckle's mother and father and family, because they're not guilty of an offence, guys. I need to make that point. They're not guilty of an offence, right? You can't blame the child. You can't blame the parents for the child's actions. I'm not having it. So my thoughts and prayers go out to Richard Huckle's family. However, Richard Huckle, somebody said, I think one of Huckle's friends said, that 1,000 deaths would not be enough. Do you know what I mean? If you look at the picture of Paul Fitzgerald, which I'm looking at now, he looks dead behind the eyes, this man. Really, really does. There's nothing there behind his eyes. In one of the pictures that I've actually put at the start of the video, just let me find the picture. Right. I don't know if this is bad taste by the newspaper or what, but you can see Huckle's face here, but to the right of him you see a child. I don't know. I don't think it's right that the paper's really published that picture. Look, you can see that face there. That to me looks like the face of a child next to him, a young child, potentially another victim. Like I say, guys, here in the UK or in any prison in the world, 4 things you don't want to be: grass, rapist, paedophile, or a child murderer. But you've got a rapist killing a paedophile because, again, prison hierarchy, a rapist sees himself above a paedophile. Do you think that rapists should have the ability to look down their nose at a paedophile? The 2 of the most depraved actions, child murder, paedophilia, and rape, for me, there is just... I normally wouldn't say I'd believe in capital punishment. When it comes to those 3 offences, I 100% believe that's how it should go. But on the upside, Richard Huckle will not be able to reoffend. I've said it 1,000 times, guys, right? He'd only been in prison 3 years. I think he was sentenced in June of 2016. I've said it 1,000 times. If you go to prison sexually attracted to men, you will leave sexually attracted to men. You go to prison sexually attracted to women, you will leave sexually attracted to women. If you go to prison with a sexual interest in children, you will leave with a sexual interest in children. And the longer these people are in prison, right? If you are into, obviously, legal age sex, so a general population prisoner, and you can buy porn in the canteen and you can get your sexual gratification that way, or your missus sending in pictures, or if you've got a mobile phone and you've got a smartphone, you can access, obviously, pornography, and you can watch porn and get yourself off. But these paedophiles, unless they've got mobile phones and they can access those depraved, disgusting fucking images that they have to get themselves off to, if they bought pornography, 18 plus pornography on the canteen, it's not going to do anything for them, is it? So the longer these people are in prison, the more the feelings intensify, and then they're eventually released back into society, because 99% of prisoners, unless serving a whole life term, are going to be reintroduced into society at some point. And that's where they've been cooped up in prison. They've had these sexual desires, the body's producing testosterone and stuff like that, and they've got needs, right? And the needs are not wired up right. They're not like us. So when they get out, a lot of these paedophiles go on to either harbour and download and share indecent images of children, or they act on their impulses and they abuse children. You've got to think, this depraved paedophile would have shared these images across the world to a network of paedophiles. He himself carried out this action and did it in the name of God, did it in the name of aid working, and did it in the name of he was a former teacher, and he was an aid worker, and he was a charity man, and he was a devout Christian and a photographer, when he was just a paedophile that was trying to get access and was bragging how easy it was to get access to impoverished children in the Middle East, in Eastern Asia. Just unbelievable. He's dead now, so as we say in prison, one off, which means one leaving the wing. He's gone. It's a prison saying, one off. His cell will obviously be double locked, as will Paul Fitzgerald's. He's currently being in the segregation unit. He will get lifed off. Now, if this was a general population prisoner, or because there was a guy from Wakefield, and he went to prison for shaking a baby to death. And he didn't go on to the numbers, thought he was the big man, went into general population. What happens to child murderers in general population? Yes, you guessed it. He was murdered. And the prisoner was a general population prisoner that murdered him, because obviously the wrong'un, the child murderer, went into general pop. Prisoners are not stupid. They've got mobile phones. They Google why you're in and stuff, and they will have already known his name before he landed at the prison. Prisoners know. From certain courts, you go to specific prisons unless that prison's locked out. So prisoners expect, and they know. People think prisoners are thick and stupid. They're up to date with current affairs. If they've got mobile phones, they use these mobile phones. They cut in contact with other prisoners, the news, things like that. They buy newspapers in prisons. They've got some of the prisoners, cleaners. When I was in Forest Bank, I had a remote. I used to text and stuff. And there was 2 kids that were done for death by dangerous, and they was getting shipped to our, because we knew that Forest Bank served at the time Burnley Crown Court, and they landed in our prison. We was awaiting for them. General population prisoners. They got hounded and they got harassed and bullied and shit parceled and corrupt food and all the usual stuff that comes with it. The threats, the intimidation, the bullying. And the violence goes on that way. But like I said, if this was a general population prisoner that would have murdered him, people have contacted me saying that they would have donated. Obviously, the fact that he's a wrong'un, Paul Fitzgerald, that being, he's a rapist. We're not going to be, like, people want to reward someone that's killed a paedophile. But the first thing you think of when you think of a paedophile's been murdered in a prison, the first thing that comes to mind is on the protection wing, right? And obviously, like I've alluded to, not everyone on the protection wing or vulnerable prisoners wing, vulnerable in the sense if there's put in general population, they could be attacked because of the nature of their offences, or like I say, deadheads, former police officers, former prison officers, fucking gang members that are like might have run into a bit of trouble, people with mental health issues, former gang members, all these sorts of different people that can end up on the wings, right? First thing that came to my mind is, right, depraved paedophile been murdered. Chances are it's going to be a fucking wrong'un, but like I've alluded to, it could have been dead and everything else. So straight away, I was just like over the moon, man. Like I say, you shouldn't celebrate, and it's irresponsible of me to say, yes, this is a good thing, but I'm sorry, as someone that was abused, I've obviously got very strong opinions on this. And the saying goes, the only good paedophile is a dead one. Well, you've got one. And a rapist he's going to get lifed off on the back of this now, should he be found guilty. I don't know. What do you guys think anyway? Let me know what you think. I waffled on. My thought process is all over, as you can probably tell. But let me know in the comment section below what you think about the story. I'm still getting I'm not the best at these things at the moment. My focus isn't with it, but I'm trying to get back into it, guys. Let me know what you think about the story. Put your comments in the comment section below. Link in the description below. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.